right now he's going through a little bit of the older sibling, a little bit jealous of not having all the attention, but not as bad as our cat, who had to be put on Prozac yesterday.
Hello and welcome to the Inspired Woman Podcast. I'm Marcy Narum. This podcast is dedicated to impacting a multitude of women with its mission to celebrate, encourage, empower, educate, entertain, and connect women. This episode is brought to you by Photos by JC. If you're looking for a fun, no-pressure photo shoot where you actually enjoy being in front of the camera, give JC Vogelweed a call. She specializes in families and seniors. Check her out at photosbyjc.com. Welcome to the debut of the Inspired Woman Podcast.
Ooh.
Amber Schatz is my first guest, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Marcy. I'm thrilled to be here. A lot of pressure to be the first one.
Yeah. Well, it's only fitting because you were really an inspiration to this happening. And so we were in Nolan Johnson's studio here at Quantum Productions.
Hey, Nolan, behind the camera.
Yeah. And so we've had these conversations, I don't know, over the last several months. And you were telling me, that he had this setup and that we should do something.
Yeah.
And so thank you
Yeah.
for inspiring me and encouraging me. So we're here.
I love podcasts. I'm definitely into them right now. So I was like, Marcy, we need to do something podcast.
Yes.
Because I've actually been going to the gym just so I can listen to my podcast.
Oh.
Which is something I never thought I would ever say because I don't really like working out. I mean, a little bit, but I was running, which I hate running, just so I could listen to my favorite podcast. So
Good for you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
Well, it's Dax Shepard, which most people know him as being Kristen Bell's husband.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Armchair Expert. It's a little, it's a little naughty. It's not PG, but it's so funny. And then, especially when you're working out, you just don't really want to think about what you're doing and you can just kind of listen to them. I'm laughing while I'm running. I'm like, oh, yeah. And he has good celebrities on there. But I also like Anna Faris has one and hers is called Unqualified. Again, it's kind of a comedy-based podcast with celebrities, but I just like how they interview people, and that's what we're into. I think both of us. Yeah.
Yes. So once this got started, I was like, we could do this 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And so Nolan and you were like, no, slow your roll.
Yeah.
This is
one a week is a lot. Even the big timers only do, I think, one a week. But I mean, you're excited because it's so fun, and it's a new medium to get to people and get to talk with them and hear their story. And it's just, I love it because it's a conversation.
That's what I love too, and hearing stories. And so I want to hear yours.
Oh boy.
I mean, I know you pretty well. I do want to mention too that one of the things, you're part of the Inspired Woman team.
Yep.
On the advisory board, you've been a writer. You're working with social media, helping me out. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're also going to be doing feature stories.
I'm so excited because I've never been, I think, as comfortable with print media as video. Just from working on the news, and putting together stories and thinking of ways to tell the story by using video and audio. So I am so excited and so grateful to have this opportunity because I've already interviewed 2 women. And I can't wait to tell their stories, through video. I'm hoping more people check them out on the website and get to see them because they are just so worth telling. And I think the video component is going to be really great.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled that you're doing stories like that. And that's with the podcast too, when I interview people for a print story, so often I'm thinking, I wish other people could hear this interview. So the podcast is fitting right in with that.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? I mean, people know you from television.
Yep.
You're a reporter and anchor at KXMB.
Especially when I'm at Walmart, just kind of walking around without makeup on, then I get recognized.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, but when I'm all dolled up, no one says anything. But yeah, so right now I decided to leave the news when I had my daughter, Daisy, and she is 20 months old now. I kept saying she's 20, and then I'm like, wait, that's not. Let's just calm down, slow down.
You're barely 20.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I am currently the executive director of the Bismarck Library Foundation, and I'm really loving that because it's a part-time job, and so I can still have time to do things like Inspired Woman magazine, still have time to go be with my daughter more throughout the day. I mean, I'm loving it, and I love the library. I always have. Yeah. You know, we've been talking a lot about that at work and what is your connection to the library? And my mom, it still volunteers at our hometown library. Oh. And I get to help let people know about it and raise money and for their big events and campaigns. And so I'm really liking it. I mean, I go to the library every day, walk by all these books, and I'm just like, I get a coffee and the gifted bean. So I love it.
That is great.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you're enjoying it.
I am. You know, it's a little different than TV news, but it's nice. And I think it's good sometimes to figure out what you do want. I mean, sometimes I was so focused on TV broadcasting. It's what I had done for over 11 years that I hadn't thought about what else maybe do I want to do. Maybe I do want to slow down for a while, try something else. And I'm liking it. We're in a lot of committees. So we have a lot of meetings throughout the day, a development committee, a fundraising committee, and like, it's just nice. You get to know the board members. So I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us about Daisy. Cute, sweet Daisy.
Oh, cute, sweet Daisy, unless we're at Target. It's always when we're out in public and suddenly the tantrums start. But no, she is everything. I probably can't even talk about her without crying because she has opened an extra like chamber of my heart that I don't think I realized I had. Yeah. And she has taught me so much already, and she's so cute right now. She is so busy right now. I can't keep up with her. I turned around this morning in the kitchen, turned back around, and she had pulled a kitchen chair over to the ledge by the stairs, was standing on it, and was peeking over it.
Oh, my goodness.
And then when I take off and try to stop her from falling, which she thinks is funny, she starts laughing because I react so much, you know, and then I'm like, oh, please don't do it again. Please don't do it again. So she's keeping me on my toes, and she's the best. So, yeah.
Yeah, she is a sweetie. You've got other family members at your house, too, and
two very high maintenance fur babies is a nice way of putting it. My dog Chewy is my first baby. I know that sounds maybe weird, but I really do.
I get it.
Yeah. I carried him home in my arms. I'll never forget his droopy little golden retriever face. And like, he is so good. He has been with me through everything, more than my husband. So who I remind of that sometimes because he sleeps with me every night. When I was getting up in the middle of the night to breastfeed, which is really way harder than I had any idea that would be, he got up with me and would sit next to me. I know. It's like makes me cry. He would get up at 3 a.m. and go sit with me while I would do it every morning. And right now he's going through a little bit of the older sibling, a little bit jealous of not having all the attention, but not as bad as our cat, who had to be put on Prozac yesterday. So that's what our house is like. Yeah. But we're working on it. We're getting him better, getting him the help he needs because he has been acting out just a tad. But we have a very busy and very fun house, like overall. Yes. I'm picturing my husband belting out the tune to Shallow from The Star is Born. He has been singing that song since he saw the movie, but to doing everyday things like putting the cat in the box. Every little thing he does throughout the day, he's singing the tune to Shallow, and I laugh every time. So it's kind of...
Any video on your camera? Yeah.
Actually, I videoed him. He doesn't know this. Well, he was in the bathroom. I don't know what he was doing in there, but he was singing, and I videotaped it on my phone. I actually have 3 different videos. I sent one to my girlfriends, which is probably really mean, but he loves them. They're cool with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do videotape him a lot because he sings a lot, but I love, like, that's probably one of my favorite things about my husband is how much he sings, and it just brightens up the whole house. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's one thing about you, Amber, is that you brighten a room. So I remember the day that you came to KX
I remember that day too.
And you stopped by my desk, and we had just a little brief moment, and then you got the job.
Yeah. I was like, are you going to introduce me to all these people and not give me the job?
Yeah, right. That's a good sign.
I do remember meeting you because it was like meeting a celebrity, you know. Seriously, it was like, holy, that's Marcy Ferrell. That was my reaction. So, and then you were so kind and so down to earth. I think you invited me over to have crab legs or something that night. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, because I had to go to Jamestown for a family thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, Marcy invited me and I should go. And now I'm like ruining it. Oh. But so thank you. You were warm and loving from the moment I met you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it was great to work with you. And I think the thing about Amber is that she cares. You know, and you were going to visit family?
Yeah, my sister. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So family is one of the things that I think about when I think of you.
We're a little codependent. It's okay. We're dealing with it. Yeah.
And I think I've gotten to meet, I think, most of your family.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am such a family person. I moved away to South Dakota for a while, which isn't that far away. And even that was too far away. I was like, no, I'll come back. My parents still live in my hometown of New England, and I'm super close with them. You know, Bismarck is kind of the hub for people traveling across the state.
Right, yeah.
So it's so nice because they stay with me whenever they're coming here for whatever. And my sister is a physician in Jamestown. So that's only an hour and a half away. I don't like anyone farther than an hour and a half away from me.
No.
And my brother is living in Grand Forks, and then my other little brother is in the military, so he's in Virginia right now.
Okay. He was in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, I was going to say after a very difficult stay in Hawaii. Wink, wink. We had to go check on him a couple times just to make sure he was doing okay.
Oh, yeah. You're a good sister.
I was all about him. Yeah.
Another moment, I guess, that I remember from the newsroom was one day you were there, and then I was like, where did Amber go? And I don't remember who it was. Maybe Tia Streeter said she got a phone call and she got up and left. Mm-hmm. And it was an accident that your brother Nate was in.
That day is seared in my mind. I was working on a story. I had already shot it with the photographer. I was editing. I was sitting in the editing bay, and my mom was calling me. And, my mom calls me a lot. Like I said, we're all pretty close. Yeah. But she called, and I answered, and it was, your brother Nate has been in an accident, and it's bad. And so I was like, okay, what do we do? I went outside, and they were going to come pick me up. So I talked to the work employees, and I was like, here's the deal. I got to go. So here's the story. Here's what you have to do to finish it. Still in that work mind. Mm-hmm. So I think Danelle actually finished the package for me. And I was like, I got to go. It's my brother, my big brother. Mm-hmm. So that was tough. And talking about my dog, Chewy.
Yes.
I went home, and I only had Chewy at that time. My husband was working out of town, and he and I went for a walk. And while I waited for my parents to come to pick me up to drive to Grand Forks, which is where the accident had happened. And that was quite a walk with my dog, you know? And when you say animals are therapy, or, you know, therapy animals, I really do believe that. I mean, he helped me during a time when I didn't really want to talk. There's not really a lot to say at this point, and he kept my blood pressure down. And looking at his face helped me, because that was tough to wait. To go.
How long?
It's a 2-hour drive. Yeah. And I think when she called, they were maybe already on the way, because I don't think I waited 2 hours till they got there. But so then we went to Grand Forks, and he was in the ICU. He'd had this terrible accident and had a traumatic brain injury. He had broken his hip. I think he had maybe broken his shoulder or, you know, something there too. But it was mostly like, is he going to survive or not? And the first 24 hours were pretty terrifying. And what we didn't know was he had already been there for several hours. And, you know, that was something we started a relationship with one of the responders who was checking in on him, because she had held his hand in the ambulance, and she made sure to like talk with us about it. And her son was named Nate, which is my brother's name. And there were certain things that happened in a sequence that could have only happened to save his life. Like the person driving behind him calling in the accident immediately. And then, you know, North Dakota, everyone knows everyone. I swear people figured out who he was and then had a connection to him or our family, and people were reaching out. I was the one who helped this, and we got him there. So it was the hardest, most shocking time of my life, because he's my big brother, and, you know, you think of your big brother as your protector, and to see him in such a vulnerable state, and we don't know if he's going to make it or not, but it has a happy ending, which I guess I maybe should have said right away, in that he's doing so well, and he's doing far better than anyone ever could have guessed. And this accident, we actually joked about at one point, was like God's intervention on Nate, because he was on a path of addiction and needed something pretty significant to happen to him to stop doing what he was doing. And so, yeah, I've had years of talking about this with him, with our whole family. It truly may have saved him in the long run.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he's doing so well. He does have some long-term, difficulties. Short-term memory, 100% is very difficult for him from his traumatic brain injury. But he is independent. He is working. He is being a dad. He is living his life on his own. And we never knew that that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he is loving, and he still has his sense of humor, which is so important to my family. I mean, that's our one thing, is laughing through tears. I feel like we're all a bunch of crybabies, and then we'll make an inappropriate joke, and then everybody laughs. So, at one point when we were in the ICU, I remember we had to be told to be quiet because we were we were disrupting the ICU because we were laughing so hard. Now, before you think we're callous people laughing, someone had said something, and I even took note of some of the crazy things that Nate was saying, because I knew that if he did ever come out of it, he'd want to know some of them. Like he made a quote about the dietary restrictions of Darth Vader at one point, and we're like, what? And I was like, I just need to start taking notes, because, I kept thinking, when he gets better, he's going to want to know this stuff. Yeah. And it took a long time, and it still is. I mean, it's truly a never-ending recovery in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. He went through a lot during that time. Mm-hmm. But
I'm so happy that he's doing so well.
we're so proud of him.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of work on himself, and that's amazing. He's a miracle.
Yeah. There's more happiness too. It was like a little segue that happened at work.
Yeah.
That a lot of people will remember tuning in on a Saturday night, and Amber Schatz had a co-anchor.
Yes, I am.
And that's related to the story too.
It is.
Somewhat.
It is, because it was difficult to go back to work. And especially, I don't think a lot of people in the public realize that news anchors sometimes are going through really difficult things on their own. And I know I was fighting back tears on multiple occasions. And on the one hand, it offers so much empathy for reading about accidents that have happened, and that these are people, and to really put yourself in the position of the family receiving this news. So when I found out that Ron Burgundy was going to anchor the news with me, sorry, I just rudely wiped my nose on my sleeve. Sorry, I'm just keeping it real here.
Scarf.
Yeah, there we go. I need a scarf. Yeah, so it was pretty crazy, because a few days before, I was brought into a closed door meeting and said, okay, so here's the deal. Saturday, the weekend crew, you're going to have a special visitor, and we have to do some special modifications to make sure the doors are locked and this and that. And the whole time I'm thinking, is it going to be like the president? That's what I was thinking at the time, like the president or someone like that. And then she said, it's going to be Will Ferrell, and he's going to anchor the news as Ron Burgundy with Amber. And I was like, stop. I mean, like, seriously, like, that's pretty much my reaction right there. Like, I was like, come on, this is not going to happen. Like, are we getting punked? Because there's no way this is real. And what made it extra weird for me is being such a huge fan of Will Ferrell and Anchorman. And I had to afterward tell a friend from college, he and I watched the movie Anchorman like 20 times in a row and wrote down our favorite quotes.
I was going to ask you about a favorite quote.
Oh, gosh. Probably a glass case of emotion. Because I just relate to that so much. Milk was a bad choice. I just watched it the other day on TV, and I just smiled the whole time, because I'm like, Will Ferrell has got to be the most likable, lovable entertainer in the world. Don't you think?
I love him too.
I can't imagine anyone not liking him. And it's just like, he's so just exudes happiness. And one thing I'll say, when he first came up to me, by the way, I didn't believe any of it was real until I saw him in the flesh.
Did you have to look at him close? Like, are you really Will Ferrell?
He walked up, and he's fully dressed as Ron Burgundy on the set right there, and the light is right there. And I never in my life have I ever been taken aback. I was so taken aback, I actually fell off the ledge toward the weather center a little bit, because I'm like, oh my God, that's him. And his eyes, like, when I saw his eyes, because he has those twinkly, like, sparkly, kind of like mischievous eyes. Yeah. And I was like, that's Will Ferrell. Like, I can't believe it. I mean, I still can't believe it. I tell people what happened, and it's like I see it from out of body experience or something. I can't believe it happened, but it was so fun, and it was really short. It didn't last really long, but it was so fun. And what happened afterward, with relating back to the accident, was when they had told us about changing the schedule, it was partly because I was driving to Grand Forks my weekend, which was Thursday and Friday. And they were saying, we need you here Saturday morning. And that's partly why they told me early, because I'd have to come back early. And I was Okay, so I go see my brother, someone who I share a lot of humor with, certainly someone who would think this is pretty cool. And when I left him, that, let's see, when I had seen him in the hospital the week before, or no, I guess it was Thursday. Yeah, because we drove back Friday. That's right. So Thursday or Friday when I left him, I was like, saying goodbye, and he's sitting there, and he's conscious, but he wasn't really himself yet. And so he's just sitting there, just kind of dazed off, no like comprehension, no reaction. And I was crying, and I was holding his hand, and I said, Nate, I'm going to go anchor the news with Will Ferrell. And, he doesn't react, no reaction, which really got me because obviously my brother would think this is crazy and such a big deal. And it was just the two of us in there. Sorry, I'm definitely going to cry now. And it was so hard to say goodbye because I was like, how am I supposed to go put on a show? Like, this is so cool. And I'm leaving him and he doesn't even react. Mm-hmm. Well, I left. And again, I still wasn't sure it was for real. And I did tell my parents, make sure you watch the news if you can, streaming on Saturday, which I'm sure they were like, we're not doing that. We've got better things to do. But I get, and the whole thing happens and I just can't believe it. And then when I got to see my brother again the following Thursday, he had a wake up day is what they call it. Oh. Where he started retaining memory and information. And then he told me, which some of what he says is a little fuzzy, but he told me that after I left him, he had told everyone that I was going to go anchor the news with Will Ferrell, and no one believed him because he's in this state, and they're all just like, oh, this guy's saying all kinds of crazy stuff.
Dietary restrictions of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
She's going to anchor with Will Ferrell.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever, Nate. Okay, go back to bed now. So he claims he told everyone, and no one believed him, and no one cared. And then when I came back to see him, and he smiled and lit up and knew what had happened and had retained this memory. I mean, it was honestly the launch toward his recovery, and it brought so much joy to my family. I can't tell you how good it was to see everyone smiling, and like, it was so great for the station, but personally, I cannot ever express how wonderful that was for me and my family. Yeah. Ever. And every time I see a Will Ferrell movie on TV, on the movies, anything, I just...
Are you guys texting or like Facebook friends?
I wish. And that's where I'm like, I wish we'd had this great moment where we keep in touch and text, but no, I haven't heard from him. I would love to. Mostly I just wanted to get through anchoring with him without, like, I don't know, wetting my pants, basically, because I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, we haven't.
What other, like, memorable stories or, like, things that you learned?
The beauty of humanity and the ugly side, too, especially being a mom. I like to joke that I'm kind of paranoid since working in the news, but we've covered some awful things, and you see that. And then on the flip side, you see the beautiful side. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting job because your heart gets pulled in a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. But overall, there's a lot of beauty out there in the people. So I've been fortunate to meet a lot of people, and yeah.
Well said.
I don't know. I sometimes think I'm just rambling.
No, not at all. So my final question is, in making this a tradition here on the podcast, is our tagline for Inspired Woman is, she believed she could, so she did, which I find, I researched, and there's nobody that has been attributed to this quote. But she believes
I started that. No.
You did? Oh. Well,
No.
now we know.
No.
She believed she could, so she did. When in your life has this been true for you?
I would say after leaving the news, which is something I had done. It was my career and it was difficult. And having my baby, who I love so much, but I do believe I definitely had postpartum depression and anxiety. And that was a very tough time in my life. And although a lot of posts about beautiful babies and stuff, it's hard, and I think a lot of women suffer silently during that. I definitely was struck by that. And coming out of that, I had decided that I wanted to put on a mud run benefit because I kind of wanted to put all of my energies toward one thing. Mm-hmm. And it was on our family property, and it was to benefit a family who was in need from my hometown. This mud run, I mean, there's a lot that goes into those things. A lot. And our family, with the help of some members of the city of New England, and certainly could not have happened without the fire department, we put on this awesome little mud run, and it was so much fun. That day seemed almost just like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because it had been kind of a difficult time leading up to that. A lot of hard work, a lot of fights with our family. It's when it's your family, you can speak pretty candidly. And you were supposed to do this. No, let's get this done. And, a little squabbling here and there. And the day of the event, the turnout was amazing. The weather was heaven sent. It went flawlessly, and everyone had so much fun. So when it was all said and done, my mom and I actually had a laughing fit just the other day where we were like, I cannot believe that we pulled that together. And we just laughed because, it was just unbelievable. It couldn't have been done without so many people in the community and our family, but it was really something. And I look back at that and I learned a lot from that I had never gained those skills of organizing an event before. But I just smile when I think about it. And I'm so proud that we were able to get it together and raise over $8,000 for a family dealing with a health crisis.
Amber,
so
that's amazing.
I was so happy, and it was just the biggest sigh of relief afterward too, that it had worked and that we had done it. So yeah, that's my moment.
I think you get your heart into something, and like I said, you care, and that's why I think you're so good at what you do. And I believe in you.
Thank you, Marcy.
I really appreciate you. So thanks for being on the first podcast, the first Inspired Woman podcast.
You didn't even have to bleep me.
No. and Amber's also going to be a host from time to time. So
yeah, I might have to zip it a little and let the other person talk more. Sorry, Marcy.
Nope, that's what you're here for.
Okay.
You're here to hear you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
The Inspired Woman podcast is sponsored by Quantum Productions, the home of the award-winning director and cinematographer Nolan Johnson. He creates unique high-end video products throughout the Midwest. You can check him out at quantumprond.com.